They say artists feel everything too deeply, every color, every silence, every ache. But for Benedict Bridgerton, no painting could capture the emptiness he carried inside. Benedict sits alone in his art studio. The early morning light slipping through half-drawn curtains. The smell of paint and turpentine fills the air, but the canvas before him remains blank. He's surrounded by pieces of beauty, portraits, sketches, half-finished dreams. Yet none of them touch his heart anymore. Outside, the sound of laughter echoes from the garden. His family is alive with joy. Anthony walks beside Kate. Colin laughs with Penelope. Even Daphne's children run across the lawn. Every Bridgerton seems to have found a love story of their own. Everyone, except him, Benedict, smiles faintly, but it doesn't reach his eyes. He dips his brush into color, yet his hand pauses midair. Because how do you paint a feeling you've never truly known? How do you capture love when you've only ever seen it happen to others? He closes his eyes. The music of the ballroom still echoes in his memory, not from tonight, but from years of endless introductions and polite conversations. So many faces, so many masks, all blending into one blurred sea of names and expectations. Benedict has always been the dreamer, the second son, free from duty, lost in imagination. But lately, freedom feels more like loneliness. He watches people pass by, laughing, falling in love, living while he drifts, and touched by all of it. He wants something different, not the kind of love that fits society's rules. Not a match arranged by status or wealth. He wants something real, something that burns quietly like candlelight against the dark. He steps out onto the balcony, the London night wrapping around him. The sky is heavy with stars. The same stars he sketched since he was a boy. He wonders if someone, somewhere, is looking up at the same sky, feeling the same quiet longing. For a moment, he closes his eyes again and imagines her. Not a real face, but a feeling, soft laughter, a glimpse of kindness, a spark of something that could pull him back to life. He opens his eyes, and suddenly he knows. The blank canvas in front of him isn't empty anymore. It's waiting for the story that's about to begin. Because soon, at a ball glittering with masks and secrets, he will see her, the girl who will change everything. The brush finally moves. Color touches the canvas. The first stroke of love begins. The night sparkled like a dream dressed in gold. Every chandelier glowed brighter than the moon. And every secret in the room hid behind a mask. The Bridgerton's annual masquerade ball. A place where even truth pretended to wear silk. Benedict walked through the grand doors, his steps steady but his heart far from calm. He told himself he was here for art, for inspiration, to observe, not to belong. Yet deep down, he was searching for something he couldn't name. Music swelled through the hall. Violins weaving a rhythm of temptation and mystery. Colors blurred into motion, blue silk, white gloves, golden light, a sea of perfection that all looked the same, until he saw her across the ballroom. A girl in silver stood half hidden behind a marble column. Her mask shimmered like starlight, but it was her eyes that caught him, bright, alive, and free in a way the tongue could never understand. She didn't move like the others. She wasn't there to impress or to be chosen. She was simply there, real. For a moment, the noise around them vanished. The crowd faded into a blur of motion, and only the sound of her laughter remained, soft, uncertain, almost like a whisper meant only for him. Benedict couldn't look away. His world had always been painted in muted shades, but suddenly it burst into color. Every beat of the music seemed to follow the rhythm of his heartbeat. He took a step toward her, and then another. Their eyes met through the masks. "Would you grant me a dance?" he asked softly, his voice trembling just enough to betray the pull he felt. She hesitated, then nodded, and as his hand found hers, something inside him shifted. The moment their fingers touched, he knew this wasn't just another dance. It was the beginning of everything. They moved together as if they had always known the steps, perfectly out of sync with the rest of the world. Around them, the ballroom continued to spin. But their world had narrowed to a single heartbeat, a single gaze. He didn't even know her name, and somehow he didn't need to. The final notes of the waltz lingered in the air like a promise, but before he could speak, before he could ask who she was, she stepped back. "I must go," she whispered. "Wait," Benedict said, reaching out. But she was already gone, her silver gown disappearing into the sea of masks and candles. He searched the room, desperate, breathless, nothing, only the echo of her voice. And the faint scent of lavender left behind. Benedict stood in the middle of the ballroom, surrounded by hundreds, yet he had never felt more alone. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing: he would find her again. And from that moment on, every painting, every sketch, every dream would carry the same name he whispered in his heart: Sophie. Asterisk days turned into weeks, yet her face, the girl in silver, refused to leave his mind. Benedict tried to paint again, but every canvas became a ghost of her. Every line, every shade of blue led back to the memory of that night. The way she moved, the way she smiled, the way she disappeared. He told himself it was foolish to chase a dream that might not even be real. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw her standing beneath the chandeliers, her laughter tangled in the music. She wasn't just another guest at a ball. She was the spark his heart had been waiting for. And so, he began to search. He walked through London's crowded streets, art galleries, markets, even quiet gardens, hoping to catch a glimpse of her again. He visited every estate, every gathering, where a lady might appear unmasked, but she was nowhere. When the nights grew silent, Benedict sat in his studio again, painting faces of strangers, hoping one might look back at him with her eyes. The walls filled with unfinished portraits, each one missing the same thing: her. "Who are you?" he whispered once, staring at the latest canvas. "Why can't I forget you?" Outside, rain tapped softly against the window, like a heartbeat, answering his question. What Benedict didn't know was that Sophie, too, remembered him. She had returned to her hidden life, a servant in the shadows of another family's home, a girl born of secrets and quiet suffering, trapped in a world where love was not meant for her. But every night, she replayed the same dance in her mind. His hand holding hers, the warmth in his voice, the way he looked at her as if she were something rare, something real. Two hearts, living into worlds that were never meant to meet again. And yet, destiny had other plans. As spring turned to summer, the Bridgerton family prepared for another season of endless introductions. And though Benedict smiled through the laughter, he felt hollow inside. His brothers teased, his mother worried, but he said nothing. Because how could he explain that he was waiting for a girl whose name he didn't even know? Sometimes, he caught himself staring at strangers passing by, a flash of silver fabric, a turn of hair, a familiar laugh, and his heart would stop, only to break again when it wasn't her. One night, as he walked home through the quiet streets, he paused near the servants' quarters of a grand estate. Through a window, he saw her, or thought he did, carrying candles through the hall. The light caught her face for only a second. It was enough. Benedict's breath caught. His world tilted. The girl from the masquerade wasn't a noble, wasn't a lady of title. She was something far more real. He didn't care about rules, about names, about what society might say. For the first time in his life, he knew what he was fighting for. Not art, not freedom. Love. Asterisk. The truth didn't come with a whisper. It arrived like a storm. Benedict had followed the light that led him to her, and when he finally saw Sophie again, the world he knew began to fall apart. It wasn't at a ballroom this time, nor beneath glittering chandeliers. It was in a quiet courtyard behind the servants' wing, where the night smelled of rain and roses. She was carrying laundry, her hands raw from work, her hair pinned simply, yet she was more beautiful than any lady he had ever seen. For a long moment, he said nothing. He just stood there, watching her in silence, the truth sinking deep into his chest. The girl who had captured his soul wasn't a lady of the ton. She was a servant, a woman society would never allow him to love. But love doesn't ask for permission. It simply is. When Sophie finally looked up, her breath caught. She knew those eyes, that voice, that warmth that had lived in her heart since the masquerade. She dropped the bundle in her hands and took a small step back. "My lord," she whispered. "Don't," Benedict said softly, shaking his head. "Don't call me that." Her eyes filled with fear and sorrow. "You shouldn't be here. If they see us, I don't care," he interrupted, his voice trembling. "Do you have any idea how long I've searched for you?" She turned away, tears gathering in her lashes. "You shouldn't have. Tell me why," he demanded. "Tell me why you left that night." Sophie's hands clenched around her skirts. "Because you live in a world that doesn't see me," she said quietly. "Because loving you would mean losing everything I have left." He took a step closer. "Then let it be my world that changes." She looked at him, truly looked at him, and in that moment, the walls she had built began to break. But love born in silence must fight louder than the world that tries to silence it. Rain fell like a quiet confession from the sky. The garden that once bloomed with laughter was now empty, except for one man standing beneath the downpour, soaked to the bone, refusing to leave. Benedict had searched again, and this time, he wasn't following a dream. He was following his heart. He didn't care about reputation, rank, or rules anymore. He only cared about her. Then, through the silver rain, he saw her, Sophie. Her figure appeared at the edge of the garden, her shawl clutched around her shoulders, her eyes wide with disbelief. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The world held its breath. And then Benedict spoke, his voice low, trembling, but certain. "I thought I could live without you," he said. "I thought I could forget. But every morning I wake, and you're still there. In every color I paint, in every breath I take. I'm tired of pretending I don't see you in everything." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "You'll lose everything." He stepped closer, his voice breaking. "Then let me lose it. All of it, if it means I get to keep you." Sophie shook her head, tears mixing with the rain. "You don't understand. Love doesn't protect people. Like us, it destroys them. Then let it destroy me," he said quietly. "Because living without you is worse." The rain grew heavier, falling between them like a curtain, but he reached out, slow, steady, and took her hand. Her fingers were cold, trembling, and when their palms met, the world stopped again. Just like that first night, she wanted to pull away. She wanted to be strong, but his touch felt like home. The kind she had never known. He stepped closer. "Sophie," he whispered, "give me love. Not tomorrow, not when it's safe, now." The silence that followed was everything. Years of waiting, of fear, of wanting what they were told they couldn't have. Then, she let out a soft, broken laugh. The same one that first caught his heart at the masquerade. Her walls fell apart. She reached up, touched his face, and whispered back, "Then take it." Their lips met, a kiss that wasn't perfect or polite, but desperate, human, real. The rain washed everything else away, the fear, the lies, the distance between who they were and who they wanted to be. When they finally pulled apart, the world seemed you again, dot in the background. Thunder rolled softly, and Benedict smiled through his tears. For the first time, he said, "I'm not painting a dream. I'm living one." She smiled too, the light returning to her eyes. And in that garden, under the storm, two souls that never belonged finally found where they did in each other. Asterisk morning light spilled across the studio, gentle and golden. The rain had stopped, but its memory lingered, in the quiet, in the warmth that followed, in the two souls who had finally stopped running from love. Benedict sat before his canvas once more. But this time, he wasn't alone. Sophie stood by the window, her hair catching the light, her face turned toward the rising sun. There were no masks now, no secrets between them, only truth. He looked at her the way an artist looks at beauty he can never fully capture. His brush moved slowly, tenderly, as though every stroke might break the spell. The studio filled with the soft sound of paint meeting canvas, a heartbeat made visible dot in his art. She was everything, not a servant, Not a shadow, not a secret. She was freedom. She was the moment he stopped searching and finally found home. Sophie turned to him, her eyes meeting his. "You painted me to kind," she said softly, a smile tugging at her lips. He smiled back. "No," he replied. "I've only painted what I see." Outside, the garden was alive again. The roses had bloomed after the storm, each petal carrying the shimmer of rain. The same garden where they had once met in tears now held laughter. Instead, the Bridgerton family had their questions, of course, whispers, raised brows, a few words too sharp. But love, when it is real, teaches even the proudest hearts to listen, and slowly, even the walls of society began to bend for them. Benedict's paintings changed after that. They were no longer studies of beauty or technique, they were love. Letters in color and light. Every gallery that displayed his work felt more like a confession than an exhibition. People would stop before his portraits and whisper, "Who is she?" And he would smile quietly, because the world would never truly understand. She was his muse, yes, but more than that. She was the reason his art had a soul. As the years passed, his studio filled with sunlight and laughter. And though life was not always kind, they had learned that love does not need permission, it only needs courage. Sometimes, when Sophie sat beside him, she would watch him paint and whisper, "You still look at me as if you're seeing me." For the first time, and Benedict would answer, with that same soft smile, "I always am." The final scene lingers on the painting, Sophie's portrait, eyes full of life, smile soft as dawn. The camera pulls back slowly, the colors fading into light.